Welcome to Uncensored Conservatism. This episode 303. And you're going to go around the United States with some stories you may have heard, some you may not have heard. And we are going to start here in Maine, as they seem to be at the epicenter of federal funding disputes with the Trump administration, where they, along with other states, are now accusing the Trump administration of withholding funds for summer school camps and the like. The administration argues these are temporary holds to make sure the money is going to its intended purpose, not some left-wing bullshit. You never know what you'll find in a box of old documents. Jennifer Cromack of Massachusetts found a scroll from 1847 penned as a Baptist church manifesto against slavery. The scroll was thought to be lost and last seen in a 1902 book. Searches at Harvard and Brown universities proved fruitless until Ms. Cromack found the document. Now, Vermont, you keep voting for them. You're solidifying your status as one weird state. Anyway, Heather Medina of the Yale Law School has been announced as president of the Ford Foundation. This is a $16 billion philanthropic organization. She was chosen given her dedication to admitting minority students to Yale Law School, which just shows you how lefty the Ford Foundation has become. The state of Rhode Island managed to pass legislation banning the sale and manufacture of what they believe are assault rifle weapons, something they probably wouldn't know it if it struck them on the head. Possession would not be banned under the law. Like a criminal won't go somewhere and get what a bunch. I mean, these are a bunch of idiots. I guess they feel good about it, though. Clock is correct twice a day, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul fits that bill after she announced plans to allow construction of a nuclear power plant in upstate New York. If reliable energy is her purpose, well, she's right. If combating so-called climate change is her purpose, she's right again. Yeah, it's climate change is her reason. Okay, two things fall out of the sky, fools and bird shit, and this was proven in New Jersey when a plane taking skydivers above the Garden State crashed soon after takeoff. 8 of the 15 potential pieces of bird shit, or fools, were hospitalized, 3 in critical condition. And it's just God's way of telling them they were either fools or bird shit, and I'm thinking bird shit. Pennsylvania enters a new fiscal year without a legislatively approved budget. Narrowing the gap between revenues and expenditures is proving a little sticky. This is pissing off some legislators who want to get the hell out of Harrisburg because it's frickin' hot there. Democrats are insisting that about half of the state's emergency fund be used to close that gap to finance their pet projects. In Delaware, the one on the right there, his name called me Sarah McBride, is in Congress, and it's just an ugly man, okay? Well, Maryland finds themselves in a fine pickle now that there are like 11,000 claims against the state alleging child sexual abuse in juvenile detention homes throughout the state. The estimated cost of settlement would be like $3 to $4 billion, money the state does not have. And a new federal suit on behalf of 3 plaintiffs asked for an additional $300 million in damages. Oh, so it's not only the Catholic Church, yeah? So what a bunch of perverts down there in Maryland. I don't know what West Virginia did to God, but more rain besieged a waterlogged state, and now they're doing their best imitation of California, and mudslides have closed the West Virginia Turnpike for more than 8 hours. Traffic was snarled for 12 miles with nowhere to go, forcing hundreds of motorists to sleep in their cars overnight. Virginia law bans conversion therapy for transgender youth, like talking common sense into some confused adolescent. But now state health department officials announced they will not fully comply with the law after reaching an agreement with a faith-based organization that challenged the law. It rightfully concluded the state cannot ban certain speech, which is what conversion therapy is after all. I mean, you just talk to the kid and tell them, no, look within your pants, that's what you are. North Republican Senator Tom Tillis announced that he will not seek re-election in 2026. This after butting heads with President Trump over his tax bill. Many conservatives have been lining up for a primary challenge against Tillis regardless, and we'll have to see what happens from here and who emerges as, this puts the 2026 Senate map into some play in North Carolina. A 27-year-old sheriff deputy named Devin Mason was shot and killed, and his partner was also shot, but survived, when they went to deliver an arrest warrant for forgery against Cameron Way Dennett. Dennett was also shot and killed in what police are describing as an ambush. Yeah, sure, let's just defund the police. I guess we should have sent a social worker to deliver the arrest warrant. That's what the left would want. Antifa. People in Georgia were surprised to see a fast-moving, streaking object in the daytime sky this past week. NASA believes it was part of a meteor known as a bolide, and that it crashed somewhere, or parts of it, in Georgia. It did break apart over Georgia, creating the energy of 20 tons of TNT. So sorry, it's not the next episode of this. Really. So a woman, not the one shown here, was pulled aside at the airport in Tampa after setting off an alarm by TSA. It would appear that her sweaty crotch set off the alarm. Now, TSA officials admit that sweaty crotches could sometimes trigger their detection devices. So if you're passing through a TSA checkpoint anytime soon, remember to spray your crotch with all that all-body deodorant stuff on the market now. Interstate 40 in Tennessee that passes through the Smoky Mountains was reopened after being closed for 9 days due to flooding and rock slides. It was originally slated to be open possibly after the July 4th holiday, but crews managed to get it open 9 days sooner than expected. So, yay. Where am I? Oh, yeah. Republican and U.S. Senate hopeful to replace Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky, Nate Morris, recently said he disagrees with his party's possible intention to award McConnell with a Lifetime Achievement Award. McConnell, best known as the turtle among conservatives, is retiring at the end of his term. Morris has been using McConnell as his personal punching bag in the campaign for the Republican nod. Republican Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed a 2-year, $60 billion budget into law. Among other things, it would set aside $600 million from the state's unclaimed funds to finance a new football stadium for the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately, he line item vetoed an effort to restrict funding for homeless shelters that push gender-affirming care on homeless people. You lose some and you win some. I mean, unless you're the Cleveland Browns. Well, the United States Supreme Court agreed to take up a case out of Michigan where their Attorney General is attempting to shut down a pipeline. The case was filed in state court and a state judge ruled in the state's favor. Not so fast. The company argues the pipeline is vital for U.S.-Canadian trade. No word on when or why the Supreme Court even took the case. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers signed a 2-year state budget into law after a hastily held legislative session. Fearing a loss of federal Medicaid funds under Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, the legislature got off their asses when the House passed the bill on a Tuesday, the Senate on a Wednesday, and Evers at 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. And hey, this guy Evers sort of looks like the wine guy. President Trump kicked off a planned year-long series of festivities to celebrate our nation's 250th birthday next year with a dazzling fireworks display in Iowa at the fairgrounds. Of course, you also know 2028 presidential candidates usually make trips to Iowa also. Just saying. Is he? Illinois residents felt a small seismic tremor after Governor J.B. Pritzker farted recently. I'm not fat-shaming him. I'm just saying that this fucker is morbidly obese. The Kansas City Chiefs, who play in Missouri, asked for an extension of a deadline regarding financing for a new stadium, fueling speculation they will actually leave Missouri and set up shop across the border in Kansas. Leases on the current stadium expire in 2031, and the Chiefs want a permanent home. NetChoice is suing Arkansas over 2 laws. One would place limits on social media platforms, and a second would make them liable in civil court for content that leads to suicides. The one law would require minors to get parental consent before they create new social media accounts. Net choice members include Facebook's parent company Meta and Elon Musk's X site. Oh, geez, here we go again. Colin Allred, Texas' answer to New Jersey's cue ball black politicians, Cory Booker, announced that he is running again for the Senate, this time to challenge Republican incumbent John Cornyn. Unfortunately for Allred, his opponent may not even be Cornyn, but the more popular in Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton. Allred lost to Ted Cruz in 2024 despite spending shitloads of money. Republican Congressman Don Bacon in Nebraska announced that he will not seek re-election in 2026. He cited political dysfunction in Washington, D.C. He also said he wants to spend more time with his family in the Omaha area, a location that is becoming increasingly Democratic of late. Omaha, that is. Still, Republicans are predicted to keep this seat. South Dakota's lone representative in Congress, Dusty Johnson, announced that he will seek the nomination to become governor next year instead of returning to D.C. This may set up a primary challenge against current Governor Larry Roden. Roden's been traveling the state, suggesting he will seek re-election after becoming governor when then-Governor Kristi Noem became Trump's Homeland Security Secretary. North Dakota is planning the construction of 2 major natural gas pipelines that would transport the product from fields in the west of the state to the more populated and industrial eastern part of the state. Currently, oil wells are aging in the state, but not natural gas. The state so far intends to carry through with plans on the pipelines. In Minnesota, you voted for them, so deal with them. The United States Supreme Court refused to take a case out of Montana that would have revived a 2013 law where minors would have to receive parental consent to have an abortion. Justices Thomas and Alito said the rejection of the case was due to technical issues with the suit, not the merits of the suit. Wyoming's is sometimes good for stories, but you were just fucking boring last week. Colorado's Capitol building now has a new portrait of Donald Trump, courtesy of the White House, which donated the painting. This is the previous portrait where the artist fattened up Trump somewhat in an attempt to make him confuse people with fat Jerry Nadler. Well, that's just some great fucking news out of New Mexico, where officials reported an outbreak of measles at the Luna County prison in the southwest part of that state. Officials are trying to determine the vaccination status of the people involved. I'm going to guess they weren't. Come on, illegal aliens. If you're going to get here, get the fucking measles jab, Arizona Democrats said they will bypass the cash-straddled state Democratic Party and their internal conflicts in next year's midterm elections, trying to ensure donors and activists. Several candidates, including current Governor Katie Hobbs, said grassroots organizing will be outsourced to small county organizations rather than the state Democratic Party. Alex the Rabbit, that world-renowned therapy pet, threw out the ceremonial first pitch at a minor league game for the Reno Aces in Nevada. He's best known for his knuckleball, but Alex needed the assistance of a pitching machine to toss the ball to home plate, after which Alex went to the concession stand, ordered 12 beers, and threw up on his girlfriend. In Idaho, Brian Koberger, the dude accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus apartment, pleaded guilty to the murders in exchange for being taken off of the death penalty. The plea deal reached with prosecutors in Latah County pissed off the families of the victims, who said they were not or barely informed before the plea deal was reached. The rug-munching Oregon governor, and come on, she's a proud lesbian, Tina Kotex, recently signed legislation which would allow striking public workers to collect unemployment insurance. In most states, public worker union employees aren't even allowed to strike at all, let alone get paid for it. So, 6 weeks of unemployment for striking workers out there. Well, it is the summer and it is California, so guess what? We have a wildfire. At least it's not LA this time, but in the central part of the state. Fueled by wind and dry conditions. In California, Uh, the blaze is only 5% contained. It stretches over 55 square miles in San Luis Obispo County. And damn that climate change stuff. In Hawaii, well, crazy ass Maisie Hirono, she's all yours. So my wife is currently in Montana, and she describes it as a state that wants you dead. But it has nothing on Alaska, which actually kills people, such as the case of this woman, a doctor from Kentucky who got off her cruise ship in Juneau and hasn't been seen since, after allegedly going for a hike. Land and air search and rescue teams have been hampered by bad weather and have been unable to find her. So if you go hiking in Alaska, make sure you take a few friends with you just to be sure. And that's it for today. Have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.